It's my pleasure to introduce our second speaker today. That is Nataliya Oboznenko. Nataliya has two master's diplomas. One is in French linguistics and literature, and she has a second master's in economics. Currently, Nataliya is studying in the Executive Doctor of Business Administration program at Luxembourg Business Science Institute, and she is writing her thesis on Ukrainian entrepreneurship. Since 2021, Nataliya has been responsible for the academic affairs of the business school at Ukrainian Catholic University. And for the subject of her second thesis, she chose the field of art and entrepreneurship, specifically artists working with the cultural and ethnic legacy. And I said that word wrong. It's ethnopreneurship. Sorry about that. So art ethnopreneurship in post-colonial Ukraine with a focus on authenticity, ethnicity, and innovation. And she also gives lectures on marketing communications and brand management at the School of Journalism and Communications at the Ukrainian Catholic University. And we're delighted to hear from Nataliya Oboznenko today with her topic of research, which is art, craftsmanship, development drivers in Ukraine, ethnicity and cultural heritage protection dimensions. So Nataliya, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sarah, for this brilliant introduction. I will try to share my screen. Oh, no. No. I don't see. Can you see my screen?
Yes, looks perfect.
Yeah, thank you. I'll try to do that. Thank you for the introduction, and good afternoon and good morning, dear colleagues and distinguished scholars and representative of Indiana University. I want to say a big and great thank you for this opportunity to participate in this scholarship program and the opportunity to work and to provide research while staying in Ukraine in times of great challenges. A part of what was said by Sarah about my persona, I want to add a little bit that I'm a marketer practitioner with 20 years of experience in international and Ukrainian companies, and I'm serving in higher education only for the last 7 years. And as for my research work, I feel myself completely like a beginner. I'm at the beginning of my career, and I'm working on my dissertation for the second year. And actually, as what was mentioned, researching as artist crafts and cultural heritage in the dimensions of entrepreneurship and identity formation. This is confirmed by the topic of my speech today and the topic of my dissertation research equally. And to conclude a little bit the introduction to my main speech, I would like to share my personal story, just to help you to understand my identity and my reasons to provide this research. And actually, I was born in Moscow in the Soviet Union, and then until the age of 7, I lived alternately in Crimea, in different cities of Western and Eastern Ukraine, in Cuba, and in Kazakhstan. Then I spent 10 school years in Yalta in Crimea, and at the age of 17, I moved from Yalta to Lviv to study at the university. Actually, I have 2 higher diplomas in French linguistics and economics, and to better understand the situation of the Ukrainian ethnic minority in Crimea in the period between 1980 and 2014. You can read the book Beyond the Perikop is the Land, За перекопом є земля, which I highly recommend it. It illustrates the experience of people and the culture environment that directly affected them, and this environment and this situation directly impacted myself. As per my identity or identities, you can see I have and I had several languages during my childhood, and I have Russian, Spanish, Ukrainian, Kazakh, English, and French languages during my life. I spent some years of my life during Soviet period, and then Ukrainian national identity during independence of Ukraine, and I have really mixture of experience due to my professional career working with European colleagues and now studying in France as well. My non-scientific conclusion from my life experience, simple culture matters enormously for the identity formation and especially for the national identity. In searching for my own roots, I came to the point where I choose as my research topic the motivation of artists who are ready to become entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs who have chosen cultural heritage as their object of activity, and who are united by their conscious or unconscious desire to preserve the most important things for Ukrainian national identity, our traditions, our myth, our artistic techniques. As a short resume on contemporary Ukrainian culture status quo, I can say that in the first 20 years of transition to a market-based economic order, the state artistic union that used to create artworks in Soviet Ukraine had almost disappeared, but a new type of artist has emerged, working individually or creating micro or small enterprises that not only draw inspiration and motives from the historical culture heritage, but also create a contemporary Ukrainian ethnic culture and products of a high quality and a big demand in the Ukrainian society. As per conceptual framework of my research, the most important term and topic is ethnicity. And according to Anthony Smith, the author of Ethnosymbolism, ethnicity in a phenomenological manner is a bundle of shifting attitudes, sentiments, and perceptions. For Clifford Geertz, the author of The Interpretations of Cultures, ethnicity is seen as a fundamental and universal aspect of human behavior. Ethnic ties, characterized by their emotional depth, are more robust than class or professional links. Ethnosymbolism, as articulated by Smith, emphasized the analysis of communities, ideologies, and identities through their symbolic resource, traditions, memories, values, myth, and symbols. These cultural elements provide frameworks for understanding and aspirations, fostering a sense of common ethnic identity and belongings to a cultural community of presumed common ancestry. In the nutshell, ethnosymbolism regards ethnic identities and communities as essential for the formation and persistence of nation. And as a cultural heritage also presented in the topic of my speech, and is very important for my dissertation, for my thesis, I need to quote Zaman and our Ukrainian scholar Budkovska and other scholars, that cultural heritage consisting of both tangible and intangible elements necessitates preservation to maintain its relevance in evolving social and economic context. During times of conflict, such as the ongoing war in Ukraine, folklore and ethnicity become vital tools for communication. Recent Ukrainian publications highlight the symbolic significance of the Ukrainian language as a form of resistance against invasion, as mentioned by scholars Gergalo Dabek. Additionally, ethnodesign has emerged as a crucial factor in consolidating Ukrainian society, as was stated by our colleague Sivash. The exploration of Ukrainian art craftsmanship reveals a rich diversity of traditions and techniques specific to different regions. Such authors as Olga Yamborko, Halina Melnichuk, Victoria Dudka, Svetlana Rogodchenko, Tatiana Reva, Anna Svetnenko, Mykola Bliznuk, Nataliya Vakulenko, and many, many others have documented various traditional crafts such as carpet weaving, blacksmithing, embroidery, stamp decorating, and paper cutting. Those studies highlight the significance of preserving these techniques, which continue to thrive in contemporary Ukraine. Another important point and dimension is entrepreneurship. It's the second dimension of my research, and we can talk about entrepreneurial mindset. And I want to quote Jean-Baptiste Say, and I will verify where I am. Okay. And he identified the entrepreneur's role in driving innovation and the societal progress, contributing to the common good and enhancing the well-being of disadvantaged populations. Entrepreneurs in the arts and crafts sector play an essential role in promoting innovation and societal progress. Cultural nationalist intellectuals also play a major role in the definition and revitalization of ethnic communities, as was said by, again, Anthony Smith. According to the author, these people often resurrect ancient myths, symbols, and memories, contributing to nation building alongside political nationalism or as an alternative when political efforts fail. To find the answer to our research question, namely, what motivates craftspeople in Ukraine to become entrepreneurs to promote cultural heritage, we defined the list of 10 entrepreneurs. The first stage of our sample selection was carried out via Google for Ukrainian ethnic brands search question to establish an initial list of potential respondents. We then considered objective criteria from the scientific literature on ethnic art and crafts. And finally, we refined the sampling base from our subjective point of view, such as modern aesthetics intrinsic to contemporary art, high quality of performance, link with Ukrainian culture heritage or culture in general, natural materials, and at least 5 years of operations on the market. As per methodology, our field survey followed 2 protocols. First of all, long interviews with open-ended questions to understand their representations and motivations. To do this, we used interview guides listing a number of open-ended questions. And then second activity comes observations and field notes to assess the different environments and gradually validate our constructs. For the interpretation of the meaning craftsmen gave to their professional activity, we adopted a hermeneutic approach. We performed content analysis on complete transcriptions of the interviews, photographs, and field notes to understand both the meaning of the words and their signification. One important insight I want to share right now, our analysis of the interviews showed that Ukrainians often define themselves in terms of identity-related issues that distinguish them from others, rather than those that unite them with others. Next slides will give you a visual impression of modern products with the distinct Ukrainian character who are the respondent of our research. And first of all, I want to to present you the first brand, Koza de Reza, and its founder and co-owner, Victoria Kolodi. This is the manufacturer of traditional toys and accessories. They are on the market since 2010, and they are like immensely presented abroad. They're exporting their toys on 26 countries, and all dimensions and all attributes presented in those products: high quality natural material, traditional techniques, modern European and Ukrainian aesthetics, and distinct Ukrainian character. The next respondent, it's a company Zerno, and its founder and managing director Christina Patek. They are also working more than 10 years on the Ukrainian market. They are working with the traditional techniques of Libika. It's painted stamping on textile. They are producing and manufacturing traditional shaped clothes. They're working with craftsmen. They are organizing schools to revival for the renaissance of traditional Ukrainian craft techniques, and they're absolute and ambassadors and promoters of Ukrainian culture heritage. And they're also efficient as entrepreneurs and businessmen. The next project I want to present is Gunia project. Two designers, Nataliya Kamenska and Maria Havriluk, started their business, we can say now, in around 2017. And they're also searching and discovering Ukrainian traditions. And they started their journey in Ivan Honchar Museum, working as a volunteers, looking for inspiration. And at this museum, they decided that they wanted to work with our traditional elements, our traditional symbols, and to implement them in new accessories, clothes, and ceramics, etc. The next respondent called Svarga and Nataliya Yaresh. It's a founder and also general manager. They were founded also around 7-9 years ago, and they're working purely with embroidery, and they're taking inspiration also in cooperation with museums, with private collections, and they're launching collections, specializing collections. And I want to suggest the last collection is Embroidered Ukraine, when they took all possible ornaments and representations from different regions of Ukraine and implemented them in real embroidered shirts. And they are doing a part of selling those products. They're organizing expositions and small performance to explaining where different ornaments and the design comes from, what regions of Ukraine, what they mean, why our ancestors were using different colors and type of design and ornaments. And actually, all of our respondents accomplishing educational activities alongside of their commercial activities. Next respondent of my research, and I can say they are all women my heroines, and it's a Hushka project, and Darina Furmaniuk is owner and manager of this project. They are producing woolen blankets and carpets inspired by traditional Ukrainian lizhniks from Carpathians, and they are selling them abroad, and they are trying to show and to promote our traditional culture and traditional art, accomplishing their product in the very high level of performance and quality of materials, and actually inviting and innovating as well with the traditional element, combining them in different new design and new products. The next respondent of my research is the designer Christina Rachitska. She's not an individual designer anymore. She started as an individual designer. Now she has a small company of from 20 to 40 employees, depending on season, and all of them working manually. Christina is producing handmade clothes, and you can see the quality and the high level of execution and performance, and all of them also have this distinct Ukrainian character, but introduced in a European also aesthetic as well. The next respondent is Oksana Sokol, and she's working mostly by herself, and he's producing different types of traditional clothes and accessories, and she also dream of opening creative art residency and to help craftsmen and culture artists to be more efficient in terms of economics and profit, and for people not from culture sector, not from culture heritage sector. She wants to educate them and to show them traditional technique, and she also doing a lot for promoting traditional Ukrainian arts and crafts, and especially she's a specialist in bibika. It's painting, stamping on textile. Another artist, Daria Loshkina, and she's working with bibika. It's a paper carting technique, and it's quite traditional. In my childhood, I also was cutting paper for doing some images and some simple forms. But Daria is working with big scale decoration based on paper cutting techniques, and she also famous in Europe because she works with big banks and big corporations. They're ordering works of Daria to decorate their big offices, and actually this is the innovation as well, because traditionally those decorations are made from paper, but because of big size of those decorations, Daria needed to find a new material, more sustainable and more stable, and she uses now synthetic materials, but the technique itself, it's absolutely and purely traditional Ukrainian technique. And last but not least, I want to mention Irina Vinnitska with her project Kovcheg Ukraine, and actually she's a publisher, and she's designing and launching great products, books about our culture heritage, translated in Ukrainian. And actually, I will advise and I advise for all of you going abroad to have in your travel kit one of the book of this project, because it's the best promotion for Ukrainian culture heritage. It's the best promotion of our talent in producing great books as well. And that's all. And coming back to the results of my research, I want to say that from the content analysis, we induce 5 dimensions: connection with culture heritage and intention to protect, craftsmen and entrepreneur traits of artists, marketing activities of art entrepreneurs, ethnicity and national identity formation intention, and pride of being Ukrainian. As you can see, and as our analysis shown us, all our respondents identified themselves at the level of their social identity as being connected with culture heritage through 3 essential links: the epiphanic revelation they have had of their role, the awareness that they are guardians of tradition, and their mission to protect traditional culture. Majority of our respondents identified themselves in their activity as entrepreneurs connected with a craft mindset through 3 essential links: a specific apprenticeship, a trial and error approach, and humility in front of economic necessities. At the end, all of our respondents identified their success with 2 major levels: their empathy with their customers and their strength in communication via social media. As a conclusion, our exploratory research began with the question of what and who drives the creation of high-quality traditional objects with a distinct Ukrainian character and identity. We sought to understand what inspires artists to maintain their unique style while adapting their vision to meet consumer expectations. One of the motivations for working in the field of culture heritage and constantly deepening knowledge in techniques is the desire to find the answer to the questions of who we are and what we are, to find one's roots and show the world the Ukrainian essence through art masterpieces. Our respondents enjoy their professional occupation and live entirely on it. Their motivation for entrepreneurial activity is to generate resources to increase the scale of their projects and increase the number of Ukrainian artistic products. They say that they work because they want to support our culture by investing in it. The products of our craftswomen are distinguished by the high quality of materials and workmanship. As a result, they can be passed down to children, which is a testament to the sustainability of this type of activity. In addition to the quality of the products, all of them bear sign of Ukrainian identity, integrated into modern cut, shape, and functionality. In the context of technological innovation, not all of our respondents follow traditional handmade techniques. Some use machine embroidery, modern dyeing methods, and new synthetic materials, and some follow a more traditional handmade methods. Visual traditional symbols, traditional manufacturing techniques, names, and shapes of products create clear associations with Ukrainian ethnic identity. And in this way, craftsmen or craftwomen create material evidence of otherness. They create a confirmation of our difference from the Russian and sometimes global narrative about the kinship of the 2 peoples. Thank you for your attention.
Nataliya, thank you for this really fascinating presentation, and looking forward to audience responses, questions? Petro, please.
Thank you for this interesting presentation. I have a remark and a question. First, the remark. I noticed in your sample of the artists and businesswomen, basically, there's a great gender imbalance in this sample. Is it, how, maybe you could comment on this. How can you explain it? And the question is, it's probably quite natural for a country in a war to, experience some kind of ethnic and national revival. And I wonder, what do you think, whether this trend will survive the end of the war? Hopefully Ukraine wins and everything is okay, etc. But do you think that there will be an interest in these products? Will they sell after the war? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Petra. It's a great questions. Both of them. It's about gender inequality. In my sample presentation, actually, it wasn't the goal to look only for women entrepreneurs. Actually, I was looking for the brand visible and working successfully as a marketing brand in terms of visibility and marketing, brand management, etc. And then we see with my scientific director that all of them are women. And actually, my next step will be to look for men entrepreneurs in this sphere, and it will be maybe different type of crafts, but I didn't dig deeper. I want to understand. Maybe it will be also the focus why women entrepreneurs are so successful, or why women entrepreneurs put their hobbies as a business, and they started simply to work during maternity leave, and then they wanted to develop this hobby into real business. I don't have answers. I know this specialty of my presentation sample, but I will research on that deeply on the next stage of my work. As per your second question, I believe that we can keep developing I don't know, this type of movement or this tradition or this trend, and it's not related to war. I think maybe the engine was, it's not the war even, because all of my respondents started working after 2014, 2010, 2014. It wasn't a war clearly declared. It was the period of annexation and occupation of Crimea and Donetsk and Lugansk regions. Actually, in the interview, my respondent said, I understood at this rather moment that I need to do something. Also, I want to present good Ukrainian products of high quality with Ukrainian character. And actually, it wasn't the narrative of help us to liberate our regions. It was the narrative, we are talented, we are working, we have a rich and great culture, and now we have talents to produce really competitive products in spite of any political situation in our country. That's why I think that looking at the quality of those products, they're absolutely competitive, and nobody's see from the customers, nobody see the war in these products. Because we have some merch, in Ukrainian markets, T-shirts with symbols of or some signs or sentences connected to war or anti-war. But those projects, they are culture and neutral in terms of war. They don't have any relations to war. And I think it will keep developing, and we will see a lot of different products of high quality with a distinct Ukrainian character. I am positive.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nataliya. Jennifer, please go ahead.
Thank you. So this is absolutely fascinating. I'm so excited. I spent a year on a Fulbright at the Hanchar Museum, and you're describing some of the things that the energy at the museum that didn't completely make sense to me. And one of the things that I've tried to understand that worked so successfully was, I'm sorry, I have so many thoughts, I'm having trouble explaining them. The ability of the contemporary crafts people to teach what they're doing. So the classes that were offered by the museum that attracted all ages, that was really impressive to me, which I don't see in the United States. So I'm a museum curator. And that connection to the roots, right? So something you knew your grandparents did, right? You're coming and learning something that maybe you lost in your family, combined with this desire to strengthen a universal understanding of your own culture. And this was before the war. I think has only been strengthened by the war, right? I follow now on Instagram and other social media this huge boom in Ukrainian craft that's being used to promote the cause of Ukraine. But the energy at the museum didn't make sense to me. And you're helping me understand a little bit more because it was so strong and is so strong even during the war. And I compare it to, so I live on the border with Mexico. I'm in Texas, and I compare it a bit to Mexican craft, but it's not the same. We don't have that connection to it that Ukrainians have. So you definitely are tapping into something. And I would love to see more about, for example, ceramics. I was part of a jury in Opishnya for a ceramic competition. And that was fascinating. The mix of contemporary and traditional ceramics. I got into arguments about bringing contemporary issues into ceramics and whether that's appropriate or not. Anyway, there's so many directions you could go with this, but I think you really tapped into something that's important. And the fact that you're bringing in the economics of it, I've met so many crafts people who could really benefit from more economic education because what they're doing is politically and culturally important, but they're also trying to support themselves. So anyway, bravo. I think this is fantastic.
Thank you. I just wanted to reflect on that shortly because, Ivan Hanchar Museum, it's really something, it's a place of, as you said, of strange ambience, but with really huge energy and resources in that. But, for Ukraine, and actually all of my respondents in some ways were related to these museums. We know this museum, and if I'm not a crafts woman for the moment, and actually we know this museum as a treasure of our cultural heritage. And what is important to know about Ukrainians, we are not we are used to see boring museums around us, but we see how to find the treasure in a bad environment, because our museums are closed, they're forbidden everything, especially for children. It's a torture, to go to our museums, because if some people, some families visited European countries, We know that it could be entertaining, it could be very fascinating for kids and given information. Our museums, it's maybe in Ukrainian character to keep very important things to ourselves, not to show to strangers, to keep our treasures. It's another phenomenon. We have an immense number of private collections. The next steps of my research will be talking with connoisseur and collectors of private collections, and I have around myself, my friends or relatives possessing from 30 to hundreds of authentic embroidered shirts. They invested their own money and put them in their home collections. They are just, so tightly in their closet and wardrobe. And they're saying, one day I will open my collection and I will launch a museum. And actually, one of my respondents is Ethno Gallery of Roxolana Shemchuk. It was her way also to open the big gallery from her own collections, private collections. And it started not in 2014, it started in 90s when we were students in Western Ukraine, and we were going to the mountains, to the Carpathians, and we were hunting great old embroidered, different types of
really
clothes.
recommend that you talk, if you haven't spoken to her already, Lida Lichach, the director of the Rodavid publishing house. She knows the private collectors across the country. She publishes broadly on cultural heritage. I've published with her on both traditional and contemporary art. She'd be a great resource, as is the staff of the Hanchar Museum, of course. Yeah.
Thank you. I've noted.
And I also wanted to say that issue about museums being stuffy and controlling. I see a Soviet influence there, definitely. And I saw in the Hanchar Museum and some other museums I visited a desire to break out of that. It requires an agreement on the part of a lot of different stakeholders in the museum community, and it also requires money. And so it's a tough assignment. It can be done, and that's what I was doing in Ukraine and during my year, was really looking at what are museums doing to bring in the public, to bring in tourism, because there's so much that can be done, and now we're in this waiting period, right, of what's left, what survives, and what can we do to help rebuild. So I don't even want to go there, but because I'll cry. But museums can be such a lively place for debate and activity and growth and recovery, hopefully.
Yeah, I can say that maybe the situation not so not so bad because we have a lot of schools around now, and they're teaching traditional techniques. And actually, at our business school at the Ukrainian Catholic University, I'm the idea. I want to launch this idea to design the program for crafts entrepreneurs, crafts artists, to teach them doing business, but in the simple words and the simple explanation. And the second part is also to teach them to work together, to partner with one another, because their force and their strong point could be only in the communities and associations and cooperative. But understanding, considering our individualistic character of Ukrainians, and artists, it's not an easy way, but we are thinking about this educational projects and the educational task for business school and for university.
What a great conversation. others want to jump in with questions or observations? I had a question for you, Nataliya, picking up on the question of the economic aspect and kind of the business model that these ethnopreneurs have. Is it mostly an international market at this point? Is it a domestic market? Tell us more about the market. And I'm also wondering about basically internet sales versus, in-person traditional kind of shop-based sales.
Actually, I don't have accurate data, but after the interviews, I understand that all of my respondents working both internationally and globally. And they're working in online environment as well. They are presented on Etsy. All of them have their websites and translated in good English with great photographs and pictures. But not all of them having these ambitions, to sell abroad, because they have enough capacity for them to sell locally, and actually they don't want to scale their business in a bigger, with, I don't know, they're working now as a small business of small size, and they're absolutely enough for them. A lot of challenges even with this type of companies, but they are obviously presented both globally and locally.
Thank you. That's really impressive, actually, because sort of from where I sit, the I don't know, the stereotype or the expectation would be that it's for an international market. So it's actually fascinating that it's a micro business that's more focused on domestic customers. And like you say, education, right? It's about education. It's about training. It's about preservation of cultural heritage more than it's about commercial success, much more. Yes, Alexey, please.
Дуже дякую, це цікава презентація. У мене лише одне запитання. So I'm interested in the transfer of knowledge. Do the designers in question learn it from their parents, or if their parents are not knowledgeable enough in ethnic crafts, from their grandparents, or it's not from family ties, but purely academically?
Great questions, because mostly they were taught by their relatives, grandparents in the first place, but then it wasn't the decisive moment, to take these hobbies and knowledge as a profession. Then during their professional career or studies, they met important person from museum, as a teacher in Academy of Arts or somewhere. But obviously grandparents' momentum and experience of doing things together, it's very important, and this is for all of our respondents, because they quoted that my grandma were cutting paper, and we've done this together. I remember that very well. My grandma were embroidering napkins, and I remember all this pillow around myself in my house or in my grandmother's house, but they needed some period of some years to come to understand that they wanted to take it as an object of their business or as their profession, and but it was at the very beginning, at the young age. They met these techniques at the young age, at home.
And why is it grandparents but not parents?
Parents usually, I know it's typical question from men because parents are usually very busy, you know, and grandparents are a little bit not so busy with work, and they are more how to say soft and kind toward their grandchildren, and they just have time to teach, to be patient, not to run from work to and doing homework, etc. And actually, it's the role of grandparents to teach grandchildren some important stuff.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
We have a few more minutes for further question and discussion if anyone has thoughts you'd like to offer. There's a question in the chat that I can read out from Morgan. Morgan says, is there a cultural education component to these online stores? For example, do these entrepreneurs include information about the different items, embroidered shirt, jewelry, etc., that help people learn about the cultural background of the item?
Some of them did that, and but not all of them. And actually, it's also a great idea from the marketing point of view to suggest them that it's very important. Actually, maybe it's more important than I don't know, other communications tools and instruments. And I'm working as a consultant also with entrepreneurs in culture heritage sphere. And I'm telling them every time that you need to write that this item comes from this region, and it's, I don't know, replicating traditional embroidery or, I don't know, wooden stuff. And it's handmade, and we taught this person, and this person was taught in a traditional school or school of traditional arts. And actually, it's a big journey for our entrepreneurs, but not all of them are doing that for the moment. But it's very important. I agree.
And Morgan says, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Anyone else like to jump into the conversation? Petro, please.
Yeah, thank you. I will ask another question. Nataliya, you started from describing your rich cultural and educational background, and it's quite easy to see how this helps you in this kind of work you're doing right now. But I wondered if you at least sometimes felt that it is also a burden. So maybe like focusing on, having one perspective is sometimes easier, etc. So it's rather philosophical questions, but it's.
You mean burden for you mean burden for myself to have so many identities in
Yeah,
myself.
right. So especially in your work, I mean, if you ever felt that.
Yes, and I have some fight with my scientific director. She's from Switzerland, but originally she's from Canada, and she spent her childhood in Colombia. And she's quite, it's a typical scientific like type, quite strict, and I'm trying to embrace a lot all our culture, all our representations, men, women, all types of entrepreneurial units and forms and communication activities, etc. And it's not a burden, but it's my task during this research journey to learn, to be patient and to focus on something, and to stay with maybe some small items and small information or small sector, and I am working on myself, but I don't know, I don't feel a burden. I like this sphere. I feel it's my mission as well to promote Ukrainian culture heritage. That's why I went to study abroad for the Doctor of Business Administration program, because every visit to my institute on our seminars or webinars or whatever events, I feel that I'm an ambassador of our culture. I'm ambassador of our history. I'm presenting some like different practices and some. I'm absolutely happy, and as my respondent of my research, I feel this is my mission to help our heritage to survive, to be developed, and to be seen by the world. No burden at all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Nataliya, I think that's an amazing note to go out on. Thank you so much for this work. We have all learned so much from you and from all of the participants in the IU Ukraine Non-Residential Scholars Program. Just want to thank you for enriching the life of Indiana University and this community. It's meant so much to us, and this is definitely not goodbye. We will be in touch with all of you, and in fact, please be on the lookout for an email later today from us with sort of a thank you email and also a request to fill out a survey about the program that we're going to send you. I'll stop the recording now before I get teary-eyed.